Okay, I'm live. And it is Thursday, November the 7th, 2 days after the election. I gave it a day just to gather some of my thoughts, and because, frankly, I know a bunch of you were ecstatic and enjoying the moment, and I didn't want to be Debbie Downer right away. Thought I'd give it a couple of days. Anyway, there are reasons why I'm going to say some of the things I'm about to, and I realize it's not going to make some of you happy, but it's what's on my mind, so I'm going to share it. And just in case you're wondering, I know some of you are probably looking at me and going, Floyd, something looks different about you. Did you get a haircut? No, I shaved the beard. Getting ready to go on a trip to a warmer, sunnier clime, and I just wanted to get some sun on my face and maybe not be so hot with the beard. So anyway, it'll grow back, but for a moment, I decided to get rid of it. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about regarding the election, and let me just say, I understand where a lot of you are coming from. And trust me, I too am happy we are not going to have a Harris-Walz administration. Not ecstatic as you are, but I'm glad we didn't get that. So there is some positive notes about this. But I'll go back to my experiences with politics, my knowledge of history, the things that I have experienced and seen and heard in my life, because that's all I have to make decisions on. That's what I have to form my opinions on. So that's what I go with. And I just want to say that I've seen this movie before. This is not the first time, and I'll see if I can post the meme. I guess you'd call it a meme in the comments section below. I'll try to find some way to get it in there for you, so you can see a representation of what I'm talking about. But it's the circular election cycle. It's the same thing we've been going through for years. The Republicans make promises. They say the things that you want to hear. You like what they say. You're not happy with the Democrats, so you vote for the Republicans. Republicans get in office. Now you're excited, you're happy. Now we're going to get some things done, boy. You watch and see. And nothing. Nothing changes. Government never gets smaller. Spending never gets cut. Everything remains the same or gets worse. And I'm sorry to be the one to bring it up, but there it is. Tell me I'm wrong. Convince me of it. Show me the proof. Because then once the Republicans get in office, whether they have the majority, whether they have all three seats, they got both houses and they got the White House, they screw everything up. They don't do what they said they were going to do. They don't do what they promised you they would do. And so people get mad again. Now they're mad at the Republicans and they vote for the Democrats. And the Democrats make all kinds of promises and tell you all the wonderful things they're going to do. And then they get in office and then they wind up screwing things up even worse. And then people get angry with them again and they vote for the Republicans again. You see, the never-ending political cycle. And here we go again. Now, I hope I'm wrong. Make a note of this. Mark the time. I don't see it on my screen right here, but mark the time where I say this so we can go back to it if we need to. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Republicans surprise the shit out of me this time. I hope they make me look like an idiot for saying the things I'm about to say. But you'll understand if I won't be surprised if they don't. The question becomes, now that the Republicans have everything, what are they going to do with it? Has government ever gotten smaller when the Republicans have held power in all three levels of government? Now, I'm going to go back. I've got a website pulled up here. I was born in 1957. So let's just go back to when the Republicans had the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. The first time in my lifetime. All right. It's in 1955. We had Dwight David Eisenhower as the president, and we had 221 Republicans in the House and 48 in the Senate. So we held both houses, and we had the presidency. And now the next year, 55 to 57, that changes. Eisenhower's still president, but now the Democrats hold both houses. So, moving forward, we move up to, let's go to 81, 83, Reagan's president, but the Democrats have the Senate, Republicans have the House. And that pretty much doesn't change throughout, the last year of Reagan's administration. Both houses were held by the Democrats. Then we get George H.W. Bush as president, two terms, and the Democrats hold both houses throughout that. We get to Bill Clinton, and Republicans hold both houses of Congress during the Clinton administration. So we're still not in a point where we have all three of them. I say we, Republicans. All right, then we get to George W. Bush. All right. His first term, it's Democrats holding both. And then we get to his second term. Not his second term. I'm looking at the number for the Congress, the 107th Congress. All right, now we're up to 108th Congress, and we got Bush in the White House, and we have both houses to the Republicans. The 109th Congress, again, all Republican. The 110th Congress, it's switched over now to Democrats holding the majority in the Senate, and it's tied in the House. Democrats holding the House, and it's tied in the Senate. So now we're up to Barack Obama, and then we get Donald Trump, 115th Congress, 2017 to 2019. Republicans hold both houses. 116th Congress, it's Democrats holding the House and Republicans holding the Senate. So, just during my lifetime, I'm not going back beyond that. We'll just go with 1957 until now. It's not a lot of times when the Republicans held the White House and both houses of Congress. And on those occasions when they did, you have to ask yourself, what did they do? Did they reduce the size of the government? Did they cut spending? Did they do anything to restore the founders' vision of what our country should be? And the reason this is important to me, anyway, may not be as important to you, but I look at things like the Republican creed. You do know that the Republicans have a creed, don't you? You can look it up. One of the things they talk about is that all individuals are entitled to equal rights, justice, and opportunities, and should assume their responsibilities as citizens in a free society. That fiscal responsibility and budgetary restraints must be exercised at all levels of government. This is the Republican creed. These are the guys who tell you that, those Democrats, they spend way too much money. We got to cut spending. We got to stop spending so much. The government's out of control. Have you ever seen the Republicans cut any of that? They may cut over here, but then over here, they're adding to it somewhere else. So the reality is your taxes aren't going to go down. Spending doesn't stop. Departments, bureaus, agencies of all sorts that constitutionally should not exist are still there. Even Trump, who, talked his first time around, talked about how he was going to get rid of this agency and that department, et cetera, et cetera. Did any of them get abolished? And this is during the first few months of his term, he had both houses of Congress. Now, let's go back to George W. Bush. And I'll pick that particularly because it was during George W.'s reign that I made my decision to run for Congress. Excuse me. And here are just some of the reasons why. Anybody remember TARP, Troubled Asset? Oh crap, I can't remember what the RP stand for. Anyway, let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll pull it up here. Well, trust me, it's in here somewhere. Anyway, TARP, if you recall, the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act, that followed TARP. Anyway, TARP came about because there were some businesses in the country, and you can go back and look some of these up. It's not that hard to find. But there were businesses that were failing or not doing well. And of course, your government decided, well, they're too big to fail. We can't let that happen. So we're going to give them money. We're going to give them your money, your tax dollars. Things like, who was it? A lot of the auto dealerships, Dodge, Chrysler, Chevy, and others, got money. I think Ford was the only one that didn't. Anyway, so they get your tax dollars to remain solvent, to stay in business because they're too big to fail. When you went to buy a car, did you get any kind of a discount for having given them your money? I didn't. When I bought a car during that time period, nobody gave me any kind of discount. Constitutionally, is there anything? Now, I know the answer to this, of course, but I want you to look it up and see if you can find it. Is there anything in the Constitution that says the federal government has the authority and the ability to bail out failing private businesses, no matter how big they are? No, of course not. It's not in there. They just decided it needed to be done. Now, this is a Republican majority. These are your protectors, paragons of virtue, the people looking out for the Constitution and limited government. Yeah, not so much. So TARP comes along. They give up, what was it? Let me look here. 400, actually, 700 billion, that's billion with a B, $700 billion was authorized until it was changed later to 475 billion. Hell, have we given that much to Israel and Ukraine? Probably. Anyway. So that's your tax dollars going to bail out private businesses rather than saying, hey, Chevy, Dodge, whoever you are, sorry you screwed the pooch, pal, but you got a bad business model. Maybe you should declare bankruptcy, refile, and come back with a better business plan, like you or I would have to do if our business was going poorly. My father and his brother, my uncle, owned 3 grocery stores at one time in south side of Richmond. Do you think if our stores were doing poorly that the government would have come in to bail us out? And keep in mind, at that time, we were neighborhood grocery stores. We weren't big mega corporations and all over the damn place. We were in specific areas that created a neighborhood supermarket. People could walk to our store. We were doing things like delivering groceries back before it became popular during COVID. Do you think the government would have bailed us out? Hell no. You know damn well they wouldn't have. But they seem to have no problem bailing out other companies. We also got under Republicans the Patriot Act, which, by the way, has not been rescinded. I thought Trump was going to do that his first time around. But anyway, I'm sure he'll get to it this time, right? The Patriot Act. Well, how can you be against the Patriot Act? It's got the word patriot in it. Aren't you a patriot? Don't you love America? So see how they play the word game with you? The Patriot Act. Well, nobody will be against that. Well, except that the Patriot Act says, you know what? The FBI, the NSA, other government alphabet agencies can spy on you without getting a warrant. Yeah. So some guy, some FBI agent has to do is say, you know what? That Floyd Bayne guy seems kind of suspicious. I don't like some of the stuff he posts. I think we should tap his phone or start checking on his computer, seeing if we can't hack into it, see what's in there. It's for national security, of course. Forget the Fourth Amendment and all that silly constitutional stuff. We don't need to get a warrant. We don't need no stinking warrants. But your Republicans push it through. In fact, the guy I ran against, Eric Cantor, was one of the big proponents at that time. He was the House Whip. And he was really big on pushing this stuff. And how dare you not vote against it? In fact, when TARP failed the first time, Cantor about lost his mind and went back into the Republican caucus and said, hey, you guys better get your rinds right and get this thing through. So this is your Republicans with the Republican creed. Look up the creed, read the creed. Say that fast 3 times. Read the creed and then look at what they have done. You see, this is part of the problem. Well, let me mention two more things that the Republicans did, and then I'll tell you why it's a problem. They approved the authorization of the National Defense Authorization Act, which incarcerates Americans with no due process. Now you say, Floyd, that's crazy. I know some of you know what I'm talking about. Others of you are going to look at me like, Floyd, what are you talking about? That's crazy. It's due process. Bill of Rights. They can't do that. Look it up. If they think you might be involved with any kind of terrorism, and you think that sounds crazy, but look up how they defined terrorism. I guarantee you that you fit one of the descriptions on that list of potential terrorists. Again, you think I'm wrong, you think I'm crazy, all you got to do is look it up. It's that simple. If you don't want to believe me, look it up yourself. And then we got No Child Left Behind through our federal Department of Education, which again, I thought Trump was going to get rid of the first time around. But I'm sure he'll get to it this time. And what has the No Child Left Behind policy done for our schools and our children? So see, the Republicans, for all their rhetoric, are no better than the Democrats when it comes to actually doing things. When I ran against Cantor the first time, I went around telling people, look, I know what he said in his last speech. I know what he said on C-SPAN on the floor. But look at his voting record. Look what he has voted for, and look what he has voted against. And again, you've got access to it right there at your fingertips. All you got to do is type it in and look it up. But people in the Republican Party would say, oh, you're crazy. He's one of us. He's one of the good guys. We have a seat at the table now because of Eric Cantor. Then came the second time I ran against him, and I'm still doing the same thing. Look at his voting record. Stop listening to his speeches and look at his actions. And now there were a few people going, hey, you know, since that first time you ran, I actually started looking at his voting record. You were right. He's not following the creed. He's not as conservative as he says he is. Then, of course, Dave Bratt beat him. And I have to say that I was surprised but pleased to hear it when I was at Bratt's victory celebration the night he won. He actually told me, he said, Floyd, I couldn't have beat him if it wasn't for you. You put the chinks in his armor that I was able to exploit. Because by then, and I had numerous people come up to me at that party and tell me the same thing, Floyd, I didn't believe you at first. I didn't want to believe you. But I started looking at his voting record, and you were right. And I'm saying this to ask you to take that and expound on it, expand it, look at more, look at your representative. I mean, I know Rob Whitman is now my representative. You know, they've changed all the districts around. And, you know, he's supposed to be a staunch conservative. He's a good Republican, except that he's also authorized sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and to Israel. Fiscal responsibility, Republicans. It's right there in the creed. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what's fiscally responsible about us sending our tax dollars to the tune of billions to other countries? How's that helping us? How is that defending the United States? And I'm sure there are those of you who will come up with all sorts of reasons how it is, make excuses for it. But the fact is, it's not authorized. There's nothing in our Constitution that authorizes the federal government to give your tax dollars to any other country, period. End of sentence. As I said before, all I can do is base my opinions on my experiences and the reading that I've done over the years, my knowledge of history. This isn't the first time we've seen this. And I hope I'm wrong, like I said before, but I'm not as excited as many of you are for what's coming. And now I'm happy it's not Harris Walls. That would be a whole different set of problems. But what I want you to do is to stop being so ecstatic, so happy, so overwhelmed and overjoyed that you stop looking and you think everything's fixed now. Trump's in there. We got majority in both houses. We don't have to do anything now. We don't have to pay attention anymore because they'll fix everything. Except if it's like they've done in the past, it's all talk and no action. If you cut spending with 3 programs over here, or even eliminate the programs, but you continue spending over here, or raise spending, or create new programs or departments or agencies, have you helped anything? Have you made it better? Because that's what they'll do. They'll say, oh, look, we cut X, Y, and Z program over here, but what they won't talk about is A, B, C, D, E, F, G over here that they created or raised spending on. And you won't pay any attention. You'll listen to the speech. You'll be all excited. You might even shed a tear because it was such a poignant speech. But you won't bother to look at their voting record, will you? You won't bother to look at the conflict between what they call their creed and what they're actually doing that violates that creed. All right. I hope I've made my point on that. If I haven't, send me a question. Let me know. Now that Trump is going to be president again, how is he going to govern? Is he going to govern through executive orders, which seems to be all the rage in past years? And even you guys don't deny it. Don't you dare deny it. You love the EOs. Yeah, man, come on. We just put your signature on the line. Boom, new law. Except only in cases of emergency is that supposed to be acceptable. If we're going to have presidents, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, who rule by EOs, and you accept it and go with it and love it and encourage it, then what's the point of having a Congress? Why don't we just name him king, and hopefully he'll be a benevolent king, and let him do what the hell he wants? What's the point of having a Congress? Seriously, that's not a rhetorical question. If we're going to encourage and allow every president, it seems like now it's become the rage, to rule by EOs, then why do we even need a Congress? Just let the president handle it. We'll just name him king and go from there. Let me look at my notes here. I guess so. I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to at this point. Again, I'm just like back in 2010 and 2012. I'm encouraging you to think, to look, stop listening, because they always, and both sides do it. They always say what you want to hear. They always make it flowery, these flowery speeches that touch the emotional heartstrings, that grab at your patriotism. You just want to stand there and, salute and sing the song and whatever. But then they get down to business. And what is it that they are actually doing? And how is it going to affect you? Is government getting smaller? Are you becoming more free or less free? More dependent on government or less dependent on government? Which is it? Which do you prefer? Maybe some of you like government doing everything for you. Yeah, if that's the case, then you're going to get what you want. Then there are those like me who would rather the government mind its own freaking business and stay within the confines placed on it in our Constitution and let us live our lives. But that makes me a crazy conspiracy nut, I guess. I guess the only good thing I can say about Tuesday's election moving forward is I see it as Hans Brinker. If you remember the story, the little Dutch boy who stuck his finger in the dike to stop it from bursting and flooding. I just see it as a temporary respite. Some things are probably going to get better. I'm sure under Trump, if he does like he did the first go around, the economy is certainly going to look better. I have no doubt of that. And yes, for that, I would be appreciative. But as far as civil rights, as far as knowledge of the Constitution, I remain a bit reticent about that. If you've listened to some of his past speeches and news interviews, etc., especially if you're a Second Amendment advocate, as I am, you've heard him talk about asset forfeiture. You've heard him talk about red flag laws and how he's all for that stuff. There was even a time when he was supporting the ban on the bump stocks, even though the ban was issued by the ATF and not through Congress as laws are supposed to be. He was all for that idea. So, I guess you can pick and choose what bothers you and what doesn't. And maybe I expect too much. I readily acknowledge that. I probably expect entirely too much from our elected representatives and from you, the voters, to actually look at things like voting records and actions rather than listening to speeches or reading something you got in the mail that's going to list nothing but positive stuff. So look around, pay attention, look things up. Don't listen to me. Don't believe me. That's fine. But if you get nothing else out of this, if I can do nothing else with these videos but encourage you to look a little deeper, then at least I won't have wasted all of my time. So give that some thought. Do some research from now on. In the meantime, we still have until January. Biden is still the president, like it or not. Harris, she's feeling her oats now because she got to run for president. And so maybe she thinks she's in charge now. Who knows? I mean, the whole thing is so screwed up. It's sometimes I don't know which way is up. And if you think that they're not going to try to take Trump out some other way, look, I'm not a Trump fan. I've never made any secret about that. But I am a truth fan. I am a fan of facts. And I know what I see and what I hear. And if you think they're not going to try to get rid of him again some other way, then you're deluding yourself. Despite all the rhetoric, despite Kamala's concession, despite Joe's speech in the Rose Garden, they don't want to make this an easy transition. They're going to do everything they can to screw this up. And as for the voters out there, especially the Democrat voters, I don't know what the hell you guys are thinking. I mean, seriously, it's beyond just stupid. I don't even know what word to use to describe the thinking process, if it can even be called thinking, that you use to decide why you support Kamala and Walz. But I guess that's another video for another time. That's going to require a hell of a lot of research. Anyway, that's all I wanted to get off my chest today. Do what you will with it. Don't, if you don't like what I have to say, fine. You know what I'm all about by now. If you don't like it, don't listen. Anywho, y'all have a good day. Have a good weekend. Bye.